Hi, I'm Chris Davis, and I'm going to demonstrate my micro Kenbak-1. Here's the kit right here. It's very small. You can tell by my hands how big it is. It's not very large. Here it is in comparison to a coffee cup. I mean, it's, it's a smaller device, which is why it's called a micro Kenbak-1. It is run by an Atmel processor. That's the same processor that's in an Arduino Uno. There's not actually an Arduino Uno in there. I'm just using the Atmel processor. If you'd like to see what's going on inside there, here's one of the boards. You see there's some LEDs, some switches, a few resistors on there. The actual brains, if you will, are on the back. There's the Atmel processor right here. We've got some shift registers up here reading the switches and controlling the lights. A little 555 timer there, so you can tell it's a pretty simple device. The real magic that goes on is the programming inside the Atmel processor, and that is thanks to Mark Wilson of Christchurch, New Zealand. He created this project 7 or 8 years ago. I happen to be working on my own Kenbak-1 recreation, and I found Mark's work, and we corresponded a bit, and so thanks so much to Mark. This is absolutely a wonderful thing that he had done here to keep this alive. The Kenbak-1 was introduced in 1971. It was aimed at the educational market in the very, very early days of the possibility of a personal computer existing. Prior to 1971, the only computers that existed were used by government and business. There was no such thing as a personal computer. The Kenbak-1 was actually aimed at the educational market, but it was at a price that a person could afford. Now, back in 1971, they were $750. Now, today, that translates to a bit over $4,000, so they were in no way inexpensive. But it was something brand new at the time, a computer that could be afforded by an individual. Unfortunately, the marketing plan and just the timing was not right. They only sold like 40 units. Now, if you can find one that exists, I think the latest estimate was there's only 17 that still exist, they're worth well over $25,000. Well, so here we have the micro Kenbak-1. It's a much smaller version. This is probably less than half the size of the original, but it operates in the same way. Now, the way you operated a Kenbak-1, you could enter addresses right here in octal, and you had buttons to read and store memory in those addresses. It only had 256 bytes of memory and a fairly limited instruction set. There was no input and output other than these buttons and these LEDs. So really, all you could do at best would be to make the LEDs flash. But back in 1971, that was still a pretty novel idea. So I do have a program loaded in here right now. If I hit start, you'll see it just blinks the lights back and forth like a Cylon or Kit from Knight Rider. And that's, really all it does right now. But let's stop that, hit clear. And now we're at memory address 0. We'll set the address, and let's hit read for the memory, and we can read. In location 0, there is a 1. If we hit read again, the original Kenbak-1 cycled to the next address. In address number 2, we have 0. Address number 3, we have 0. Address number 4, we have an octal 10 is what we have. So you can cycle through those to see what the program is. Now, as an individual just looking at this, it's pretty hard to figure out. You'd have to transcribe these numbers down and then compare them to the instruction set to see what it actually did. But more than likely, if you're running it, it was something that you entered yourself, so you would know what it does. I do have a few programs built in here just so you can see it operate and show it off to your friends without having to make them wait for a half hour while you enter the machine language code. Right here, it's, like I said, the Cylon back and forth bouncing of the LED. We could stop that. We can load up program number 1. And there's also a way to slow down the processor so you can actually see what it's doing. I'm going to do that here. And then we hit start, and what it's doing is it's counting up in binary. There's other programs in here. I think it's this one. It's just pseudo-random light flashing, so it looks like an old-timey computer with the lights going. Sometimes I like to leave this sit on my desk with those lights flashing, and that makes people ask what it is, and then I get to tell them the story of the Kenbak-1. In 1971, that was pretty crazy stuff. Today, maybe not so much, but it is still fun to see the lights flash, isn't it?